What's up, y'all? Welcome back to From the Ground Up. It's Dr. Becky here, and I have a very special guest. Actually, my second-time guest, who was also my first guest on the podcast. I have my girl, Corrie. She is our COO at Genesis, and she is also co-owner of Genesis, and she is my business partner and one of my very best friends. And so I'm excited to have you back, Corrie, because, today it's the first day of 2026. We have finally made it. And I want to discuss with you a lot of things today that hopefully will help our listeners, reflect back on 2025, but also get really aligned and excited for what is to come ahead in 2026. So I'm really excited. Thanks so much for coming on again and taking time out of your day.
Of course, literally anytime I get to talk to you is always fun. So I'm like, yeah, sign me up. I'll come back as many times as you want.
I mean, don't tell me that because I'm going to have you on here all the time. But that's what the people want anyway.
That's what the people want. Comment and let us know what else you want us to dish on next. And we're here for it.
Literally. You made a joke right before we got on this recording that we should just go live on Instagram and do a live Instagram podcast session and live Q&A. And I honestly love it. So maybe that'll be mine and yours next podcast episode.
Do that next time. It'll be great. Ask us anything.
Ask us anything. AMA, we love. But for today, the topic I wanted you and me to kind of just have a conversation about, I want it to be less interview style and more just kind of the two owners of Genesis, reflecting and talking about what we've been through. In all of it, but specifically in 2025, so that we can help people, hopefully learn from what we've learned, from what our experiences have been, and kind of how we are looking ahead to 2026 as well. And that kind of overarching theme that I came up with when I was planning out what I wanted to talk to you about was this idea of the cost of alignment, right? And this theme has kind of been showing up for me personally probably over the past, 3 months. Probably longer, but it's really been hitting me the hardest kind of in Q4 of 2025, where I've personally made some really big and hard decisions on a lot of things for business, for personal life, for just everything really. And, a tough decision doesn't mean a bad decision. Honestly, they've all been great changes and decisions, but it doesn't mean it hasn't cost me something. And so looking back into the whole year and Genesis as a whole, and with you and a lot of the stuff that we've been through and changes that we've made and choices that we've made and things I feel like 2025 was truly the year of me and you being this is where we are going and how we're going to do it. Full stop. And that alignment costs me and you things. So that's kind of the idea that I want to get into with you today is how can we look back on 2025? Let's pull back the curtain. I am fine with not hiding literally anything. There's no reason to hide anything, right? So everything's on the table. And I just want to discuss it with you if you're cool with that.
Yeah, I'd love to. I've been thinking about it a lot because you warned me what we were going to be talking about today.
I love it. I just think so many, first of all, no one talks about the hard stuff, right? You see the highlight reel, you see the wins on social media, you see the 2025 Wrapped or whatever was going on in December a few weeks ago. And it's just, you just don't see the hard stuff and the stuff that, might make you rethink literally everything you're doing and question your own judgment calls and, lie awake at night. No one is talking about those things. And what my intention would be is let's share about it, but also show how good it's been to go through that stuff for us and where we've ended up. So, and where we're going, right? Because it's I always say you never fully arrive in business. you're just signed up to like stay in the game. Like that's what it means is there is no end point, right? Like you never arrive, you never achieve it all. Like literally succeeding is just making the choice to take the next step and keep going. And so like that's kind of what I've learned this year about this idea of alignment is it sounds like all lovely and peaceful, like, oh my gosh, I'm so aligned and my life is aligned and my business is aligned and my time is aligned and all the things. And like it can be eventually peaceful, but getting there and making those hard choices, saying yes, saying no, all the things, losing things along the way, learning things along the way, like all of that is the cost of that peace and of that alignment. So like that's kind of what I've been reflecting on. I'm curious like how you like looking back at 2025 and like this year where we like went all in on our alignment and what that means. Like what do you see looking back at 2025?
Yeah, I was thinking about this coming into today because I agree with you. Like, alignment costs a lot of comfort, but I genuinely do feel like it affords you a lot of peace, if that makes sense. So, even though the things that when you get specific about really what is the goal, what are we working towards, are we really on track, or are we just doing lots of good things, but like, are they really going to get us where we want to go? Like, it does lead to a lot of no's a lot of the time. Like, no, this isn't actually part of the long term game plan. Like, no, this isn't actually like worth it at the end of the day. Or like, it sounded good at the time, but it's just like not the right fit after all. And it's really hard to let go of those things that felt good at the time, but then it's also feels out of I think that's why so many people operate out of alignment is because and this is something I've done before too, and I know we've done together, is because the alternative to pausing long enough to realize you're out of alignment and taking action to get into or out of whatever is causing that is usually a lot of like slowing down and stopping, which business owners rarely do. And then also, you have to say no to a lot of things, a lot of opportunities, maybe even things that you've already said yes to, and maybe are even working out, but you just realize this isn't for you, at least not right now and not for the long term. And it's really painful. Like, I think this year has been so good in so many ways, and I have a lot more peace and contentment and just like, I feel so much happier, which is crazy because it's also been probably one of the more painful years of my life, at the same time. And so I think it's also interesting that it feels like staying out of alignment is going to protect your comfort, but it really only does that in the short term and in the moment of what would have been that tough conversation or what would have been that tough choice. But in the middle of every day, in the middle of the night when you're laying awake, like that's when being out of alignment costs you. So it's kind of like choose your hard,
No,
honestly.
literally. That's what I was gonna say is like I feel like thinking on, the cost of alignment, it's the short-term cost of change and getting out of your comfort zone that then, like you said, affords you that future just peace and knowing that you are aligned. But had we just kept doing things the way that we were always doing them and like not made some of those hard calls and hard changes, we would have felt that cost, the cost of not doing it, not changing forever until like probably we eventually shut things down the road. Like, it just wasn't sustainable for the size of the business that we've grown to for us to stay the same. It's like that whole what got us here won't get us there, that that has been true for us this year. So, let's talk about like kind of what are some ways, what are some areas that we actually took action on getting aligned this year. One that comes to mind that has been a big one, honestly, has been implementing systems and processes in general. People who have followed me, who have listened to me, listened to my show, whatever, like you probably know I am more of a visionary. I don't systems and processes don't come like naturally to my brain. So I have had to like work really hard to learn kind of how to unlock that in my own brain and also be like, this is what has to be done for the good of the entire company. So, like, it is hard for me. It is, taking me time and I'm having to like back myself up and try again and, do all these things simply because it's a skill I've had to learn for myself this year. And like that has, quote, cost me things like being comfortable of not learning a new hard skill or like I said, the time it has taken me to back things up and redo it and build a system. And, it's like that is one big one, which sounds not exciting because it's like, oh, you put systems in place, processes. But it's like literally, it was so hard because, first of all, we really didn't have like, many. And so to spend a whole year looking at what it is that we do, documenting it, rolling it out to our team of over 20 people, asking them to learn it and implement it. Like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about when I say, like, we implemented systems and processes. It's not just like I whipped up an SOP manual, which, by the way, I did not do. Meg did. I love you, Meg, if you're listening to this. But it's like, that's what I'm saying. The cost is like, we have had to ask our organization to do this with us. And I think in general, most people can understand, like, oh, yeah, this will be good for us and this will be helpful. And like, I would say it's mostly been positive, but there has been like, it's been hard to ask the team to do things differently, right?
Yeah, well, and change is hard. And so, especially if you're realizing that things are out of alignment, which oftentimes I think is unintentional from both the leaders and the team members, right? It's just the vision wasn't completely clear down to like the nitty gritty of what does that look like on the day to day. Like everyone can get bought in on the big picture, but what does that really look like when we're all rowing in the same direction together, right? To borrow the visual for traction, which like we implemented EOS this year. So that's been a huge change. And it just changes hard. Like people get used to the way they do things. And so, like you said, we've made changes in our admin team and the marketing side of things and the finance, like every single part of our business has changed this year in 1 year. And like that has been really hard. And we really had to slow down in order to do that like well. And slowing down is also hard because speed is like sexy and fun and being like, oh, we're doing all of this all at once because we're just so great and like fun. Well, I know because we did that for a little while, and then but what's not fun is being like, "Oh, this system broke because now we added more people and they had no idea what to do. Oh, this great idea didn't pan out, and so now what are we gonna do with all that energy we put into that we're never gonna get back?" Like, really change like and we had to change, and I think it's scary when you see your leaders changing too, like, we've gotten feedback on that from the team, like, it feels like Genesis is changing, and it's because it is, but it really feels like it's changing for the better and for the long term and to get more aligned with the vision, it's just less of, like, a roll with the punches, make it up as you go along kind of vibe these days, which is it's how it started. That's how so many businesses start, and, like, that's fun, and we're kinda getting out of the, like, just wing it phase. We're fully out of the we're
Yeah.
winging it
I was
phase.
like, we're really not winging it these days. Like, we're still always learning and trying things, but we definitely have a method to our madness these days.
These days, which is genuine. I'm sure everyone, especially if you own a business or you work for a small business, like you are familiar with this. Like, you're just kind of showing up to market. What does that even mean? You're just like meeting people and adding them on Instagram and being like, do you want to come get a pelvic floor assessment? Like, and that's it. And so there's been a lot of change with that this year. And we've become much more of like a laser instead of a flashlight, very, very intentionally, which brings us back to like we had to say no to some stuff it's not really a no not ever, but it was like a no not right now to a lot of things this year while we became laser focused on the change that had to happen.
Can you give an example of one thing that we said no to?
I think the biggest like tea that everybody probably wants to hear about is we ended up exiting Genesis, Colorado. And for us, like, that was hard. Like, I won't speak for you. I mean, I was there, so I know we were both really emotional about it. But we ended up deciding to exit because despite the fact that Amelia was doing a great job and the business was great and things were working and the Genesis method was working, operating another brick and mortar in another state was just like not in alignment with our long-term goals. We realized we learned from doing it. And we just kind of had this like pivotal moment one day when we slowed down to plan where we were like, this isn't gonna be it for us long term. Like we're pivoting the long-term vision based on what we know now that we didn't know then. And we both like cried and like we were like, we have to tell Amelia because we can't just keep doing this just because we said we'd do this. Like we have to figure out a win-win for everybody, which thankfully Amelia's the best and she completely understood. It was funny because we were dreading making this phone call. And when we did tell her, she was just kind of like, I could kind of tell, honestly, because we were out of alignment. And she was very gracious and we did figure out an awesome win-win and everyone's still buds. But I think that was one of the biggest pivots this year that really gave me back so much peace because I was just like, I'm only doing this because I committed to it, not because I still want to be doing it. And like, that's okay. It would have been easier, quote, easier to avoid that or felt comfier, but I cannot imagine, like, if we had just continued to stay with plan A just because.
Well, yeah, and that's, the cost of making that decision together back then felt very hard and very scary and very emotional, but, like, once we did it immediately, everything was better. Like, she was like, "Yeah, like, I could tell. I do agree with y'all. Like, this is the best path moving forward. Like, let's make a plan," And it's like immediate exhale, It's like that is you make this thing so scary, you know, and it's like, "Oh, it's gonna be so hard and so I have to, say something difficult and all the things," I'm speaking to myself here. But it's like once you just do it and you're honest with yourself and the people around you, like exhale and now you can really move on and so can everyone else. And so I think that was a really good example of just like something that felt to me like so big and scary and impossible to overcome and then we just like did it and here we are like still going and even better for it. So yeah, I think that's a really good example. One thing that I have kind of worked hard on this year on like our marketing side and our messaging and branding has been, like who is the Genesis ideal client? Because I think a lot of founders and business owners, especially like PTs and OTs, we're helpers, right? We want to help all the people. And so we talk to all the people. And so one thing that you and I made a decision on this year was, we brought in Tori, the CMO, to really help us like nail that stuff down and who is our ideal client and what is our messaging and what is our brand and what is our strategy and how are we going to do all this stuff, right? And so in doing so, we have had to like all year really stay, like you said, a laser on that ideal client and really speak to that ideal client. And I think some of our team, has had a harder time with that. And that's okay, but things I've been hearing, over the past year, 6 months, 9 months, whatever it's been, is just kind of like you said, Genesis is changing. Like, are we not marketing to this person anymore or this population anymore? Or, why aren't we talking more about this thing? And so a lot of that stuff, just in this one little ideal client focus example, causes, change to be so difficult. It causes like the people on the team to start questioning, and that could be like a reflection of their own alignment. It could be that they're truly just curious. It could be a lot of reasons, right? But that's been hard for me this year, is to see how some of these choices and decisions that we've made and stuck with has impacted the people on the team, right? And just like, and we're not perfect business owners. We, like you always say, change is hard, and we've done our darndest to manage it as best we could this year and to like lead them through all of that. But like at the end of the day, we're not gonna be perfect, and I have seen, some impact for the members of the team, and I'm curious if you have as well, either on that example or other examples.
Yeah, I think it's funny you mentioned that in theory is such a small change, but it really isn't because of all the things we learned from our our CMO Corrie. But I mean, I was resistant to that change in the beginning too, because I was like, well, I treat men and women and, I treat all these other things like we all do. We all have a broad thing that we treat. And I think as a clinician, you hear so much in public health, especially like, oh, I was looking for this and I couldn't find it. And I think we conflate those things in our mind as clinicians of like, well, we need to be speaking to every individual human being on the planet. And what we've learned this year is that the better you market and the more you get in front of people, the more people can find you and the more people you can help by actually being good at marketing. So it's not like we're turning any patients away. It's that we're clear in our voice, we're clear in our position, we're clear in what you see is what you get. Like you can't have every little bit of nuance within your ideal client. And that was hard for me. Like I had to wrestle with that, which I also think helped the team wrestle with that because it is like a wrestle because as a clinician you're like I just want everyone to feel seen and heard. And I had to wrestle with like that has to happen in the treatment room, not on like the marketing dollar because it's just not efficient and it doesn't allow us to take care of the vision or the team and it doesn't get us in front of people because no one can see us if we're talking about 100 different things 100 different times a day. Like, it just doesn't do the same thing on the algorithm, the internet, Google. Like, it just comes down to the nuts and bolts of it. And, like, I think that was a tough choice to make as leaders of, like, even though we get it as clinicians, like, that push and pull this is the better choice for leading the company forward. And we had to ask them to trust us. And this year, we also started to really dive into the data to back it up. And so I think that helped, but it was still hard.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like that saying, if you're for everyone, you're for no one. And so, if you're just pelvic floor therapy for all the things, which do we do all the things? Absolutely. What I'm talking about is our like messaging and our like, magic wand ideal client of Genesis. Like that should end up being 80% of the company's caseload, bring in 80% of the dollars, all of the things. And like, you're going to get the 20% that are on the fringes, but it's because, you're talking to the ideal client and then they're not like it's not like someone's trying to get in here for chiropractic, like it's not that fringe, but it's still people with related issues that are seeing our targeted marketing and they're like, well, if they can be so incredible at that thing, surely they can help me with this thing too. And it's like, of course we can. So I think you said it's not like we're turning people away like, no, you like are not our ideal client, so we will not treat you. It's like it's the messaging of it and it's really sticking to it to ensure that the majority, like literal 80% of who we bring in fits that bill because that's our bread and butter. It's been great cuz I love messaging and I love building all that stuff out and we're still kind of putting the icing on the cake with all of that stuff, but it's been fun, but also like you said, like we've had to ask the team to trust us on the marketing strategy and things, which when you're asking people to, and I'm not even saying blind trust, but like when you're asking people to like trust us as we learn this and implement this and like trust that we have your best interests at heart as a team and a company, like, and that's why we're doing this, like we've got you and it is changed and it is different, but we've got you. And so like that's been our message all year. It is change, it is different, and we've got you. I want to talk about some more tea.
Okay.
I want to talk about our experience raising prices this year because, like, it was so hard and, like, for so many reasons. Like, for me, it was hard to even determine what do we raise our prices to? And, like, you did so much work with, our CFO on literally everything, like building out our cog sheet and like all of that craziness, like being able to calculate what, profitability margins that we need and then work backwards and set prices based on that. And, so you did a lot of work there. And we also together like did a lot of work with both internal team messaging, like doing our best to maintain like morale through the company and everything, but also external, patient and public messaging and just not and I haven't even touched on all the operational things that go with like a price raise and different services and packages and everything. But like I feel like the hardest part, like naming all of that, the hardest part for me was the internal team, like the change for them and how hard it was for them, which makes it hard for me because I don't like to see things be hard for my girls, And so I just want to talk about that because that is something I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard anyone share like a similar struggle like I experienced this year from a team perspective because we got virtually no pushback from like the public and patients. I mean, we have like a couple people drop off? Yes, but 2 or 3 people out of hundreds is pretty dang good. And you said it best. It's like you would rather lose a couple of patients than have to let go of team members because our prices aren't right and we're not making what we need to make to be able to keep them. So I would like your perspective on just kind of how all that went down and how it was so hard.
I think it's so hard this year for price raises because it was tactical. Like, it was a lot of hard work to make sure it was all going to be good and better. Because before we just raised prices when we got full, it wasn't like a strategic business decision based on goals and metrics and data. It was just like, and we didn't even do it that much. Like, we probably could have and should have raised prices more early on. And so I think that's what made it such a tough pill to swallow this year, especially rolling out to the team for me. Like, in our last meeting with the team, like, I was very candid with them. I was like, we did such a big price raise this year because we weren't strategic before. Like, and that's our bad. And we're sorry. And like, this was really uncomfortable for everyone. I promise you, the discomfort you felt telling all your patients the prices were raising was not more than the discomfort me and Becky felt. Like, I don't want to hold space for you, but I'm also like, all of the work, all the back end, all of the like, my therapist, heard about his raising prices this year more than once, and just like the internal battle of, am I doing this right? Is this a long-term strategic plan? Should they trust me? Like, all of that stuff.
That is so freaking did you overcome that thought? Because I've had that plenty of times too, where it's like, should they trust me? Like, do I trust me? Is this right?
I think that's such a good question. I think for me, I'll always have that thought a little bit. And throughout my whole life, like, without getting into my childhood, but also like within just this last year, I'm like, I am going to figure it out. And it was first with my personal finance, and now it's been in Genesis. And with Genesis finance, like, I literally sat down January this year and I was like, can I cuss on this podcast?
Sure.
It was like, I'm gonna figure this the fuck out. Like, this is a little bit messy. We had said yes to way too much stuff. We didn't know what was going right and what was going wrong and how to measure that, and all these different, like, online, in-person, self-paced, like, peds, doula. Like, we just had way too many plates spinning at the same time and no, like, real system for measuring them. And so it was really hard, and we brought in an expert, which helped a lot. But I was just like, I'm going to figure this the fuck out. And like, that's what I've literally done all year. And so it was kind of a proud moment for me this Monday, like making a presentation to the team where I was like, this is everything we've done this year. This is everything we've tracked this year. This is how we made these decisions. Behind the scenes, and like what we learned along the way. Looking back at this year now, this is what we're going to do differently going forward, even based on just what we learned this year. This is what we can make promises on. This is what we should have never made promises on before, and we're not going to do anymore because we've learned from it. Like, It was just a lot, but, like, we figured all that stuff out this year. We have a much more strategic plan going forward, and we're just gonna get more and more strategic every year, and I think that's what I can promise, and that's what they can trust, is, like, I one of my one-liners is I always say, "It's never a waste as long as you learn from it." And like we did, every single thing that happened this year, especially, we didn't just be like, "Oh, that sucks. I wonder what happened." Like, we dug in and we figured out what the real challenge was, and we're still addressing many of these things, and we always will be, because things like marketing and finance and operations are just part of a business, but, like, we did it this year, and next year there'll be a new challenge, but now we have so much more figured out going into that next challenge. So I think they can trust me. I hope they do trust me. I trust me a lot more at the end of this year than I did at the beginning, too. So hopefully I can at least lead them in that. Like, I've earned my own trust.
Yeah, what does Layla always say? She says, "Confidence doesn't come from, like, believing in yourself, it comes from, like, doing the thing before you believe in yourself or before you have proved it," I should say. Like, confidence comes from literally taking action. Sure, go fail, that's fine, because 'cause you're gonna learn from that and course correct and be better for it next time, and that's what builds, like, the confidence, right? So, that's kinda what I'm hearing, like, in what you just shared is, like, you believe in your ability to figure it out, and you're going to take action before you have, like, the perfectly clear answer, and it's less it's not throwing spaghetti at the wall or building the plane as we fly it anymore, but it's still pushing the envelope and not being afraid to make, a decision without all the data first, and like we're rarely going to have 100% of the data and metrics, but like we do have a lot more now and we can make informed choices and things, but it's still not guaranteed. And so I love that it's like trust that we are going to figure it out and that we have their best interests at heart. Like that's what they trust, hopefully, is what my hope would be. So I love that.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's all we can promise them is like these are our core values, and the way we execute them may change over the years, but like they're not changing. For us, our core values are highly centered around our team. Like it's not like it is like be the best, but it's like be the best by being the best team, not like Corey's the best or Becky's the best.
Right. And like literally we're better together. So we win together, we lose together. And that's been a huge one this year that we've really like tried to keep at the forefront is our better together value. Cause like when we are implementing all this change and all these hard decisions and hard calls to make, right? It's like they have to still believe that and they have to still be able to have in the back of our mind, like, okay, like we win together and we lose together. So like we either have to be all in together and like trust are the leaders, trust each other to have my back, like I gotta have her back, like everything. And we are gonna win together, and if at the end of the day, like we have a rougher year than we all anticipated, like at least we're losing together, and it's like that's the sentiment that I have tried so hard to like keep this year for everyone as they've gone on this journey with us through all these changes and things. So I love that.
I remember when we first met and you had posted this on like Instagram, but there's this like I want to say it's an African proverb and it says if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Which there's no way you would have known this, but that was like on my Facebook banner when I was like in college. I don't even remember. I don't even use Facebook anymore. But that little proverb has always stuck out to me because it's so true. And I do think, like, that's kind of what's at the root of Better Together is, like, it may be slower and it may not look as, quote, unquote, "easy" as, like, doing it alone, but we're gonna go so much farther together than we ever would have otherwise, and that's, like, what we're laser focused on. Extra laser focused on now. He was already the focus, but now it's like a laser.
Yeah, and it's like, we're in it for the long game. Like, we're in it to change the game of public health. That's not gonna happen tomorrow. So, like, we have to stay aligned on that and keep putting one foot in the front of the other and keep believing in that. the other really, really hard thing for me this year that I kind of wanted to unpack with you is we lost a lot of team members this year. And, none of them explicitly said, I'm leaving because I'm unaligned to Genesis, like that was not like the verbiage, but like I think there's something to be said for when you get laser focused on your vision and on who you serve and on how you're going to get there and on like, we are rewarding and recognizing based on who is aligned and who is living out our values and who is like being held accountable and like doing what they said they were going to do, right? Like the people who may have kind of had like were on the fence or had like one foot in, one foot out, maybe didn't even know that they did, but it's like those are the people who the business folk will say like that is a cost, quote unquote, of getting aligned is you are going to lose people along the way. And I think I thought we would be above that if I'm just being frank, because I'm like, but it's like Genesis and we're so amazing and we're better together and we're all like the best and we love each other. And like all of that is true. And we are not above the laws of physics in business, right? It's like that's how it works when you are no longer a flashlight, which is, able to keep a wider set of people in the light, right? And you are now a laser. Not everyone is going to fit perfectly in that laser anymore. And that has been I feel like I am good with it now. Like I'm like, okay, that is a true thing. We have lived it. And like, I'm still alive. I didn't die when people left me, which I thought I might when people like leave Genesis. I've always been like, I don't want anyone to ever leave. And I think like the underlying belief or thing I was telling myself is, like what do I believe about myself as a leader if they're leaving? Like it was just a whole thing that I had to unpack. But I do feel like I'm on the other side of that and I'm not, like people are going to leave and the next time someone leaves, like I know I will be okay.
When I think it is hard, and I joked a lot with my husband this year that I was like, I can see why as a business owner it's easier to just become cold and not care about your team. Like I still, don't think I would ever do that, but I'm also like I now have a different perspective on all the advice you get from professionals and from all the books and the podcasts and to kind of treat people like numbers, which again, we did not do and we will not do. And I'm like, I totally now see how that would be easier. Cause also part of a business is like people are gonna leave. They're gonna be here. And my mom always said this about friends, but she's like, people be in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And all of those things are okay, but they are different and they feel very different. And like I think just like friendships or like when you're on a team, like it's not I very intentionally don't refer to our business as a family. I know we call us Jenna's sisters, but I'm like, it's not a family. It's a team because like people join teams and leave teams and your positions on teams change and that's all perfectly normal. And it still hurts and it still sucks. Like some of the people who left this year, again, I don't think it was even I know for certain at least one was not an alignment issue. It was just I know for certain at least two were not an alignment issue. It was just life, changes and choices. But it still sucks. Like these are our friends and
I know.
like our team
And
members.
people that we've invested into, I don't even just mean monetarily, like literal time and energy and emotionals and like everything.
Yeah. And so it does really suck. I'm like, wow, it would be easier to be like, oh, it's just business. Who cares? But it's not like that. And I think it helps because we got onto EOS this year and they say in the book specifically, like, once you are very clear about your alignment, then people can take a good look at it and realize if they're in alignment or not. Which I think that reframing really helped me. It's like not that we're flipping the script on them or like got them with like a bait and switch because I genuinely don't think that is true. I think we just weren't clear until this year. And then especially when we started holding people accountable to the core values and to like the team contribution to the long-term goals, then some people were like, this is not for me. And that's okay. Just sucked.
Oh my gosh. So looking back, so I have two kind of questions for you. The first one is like looking back on 2025, what do you feel like is like your biggest takeaway?
I think my biggest takeaway is honestly that if I'm going to lead from an aligned place, I have to give myself permission to get aligned first. I think especially as like a younger, newer leader, like in Genesis, I've come up in Genesis. This
I
was my
mean, you were born here. It's fine.
this was my first job out of PT school. So I haven't come in here like with prior COO experience. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to have answers that I didn't have. And so I overpromised things that I shouldn't have. And I just think in this year in particular, I kind of I reaped what I sowed of like things that had, I'd been like, we'll figure that out, it'll be fine. And like it will be fine and it is fine, but not on the timeline that I thought we would, not the way I thought it would turn out, but I was just inexperienced. And I think now with more experience, I'm like, okay, it's okay to be like, I don't know. That's going to have to wait. We're putting that in the parking lot for now. And that's a better service to the team to like gut check first with myself and then obviously with you. Like, is this really an alignment versus just being full steam ahead, which was how I was operating before.
God help us all when we do that. No, that's so true. I think my biggest takeaway looking back is if I had to pick one thing, it's that it's worth it to do the hard thing and the scary thing that makes me want to like run away and like hide under a rock, to be honest. And that is true for multiple scenarios this year, but like the theme was like I did it anyway, and it has tenfold been worth it and it continues to be worth it. But you only know that like hindsight's 2020, right? You don't know that until you've done it enough times to like show yourself that when you choose the hard thing that is in alignment, yes, it's hard and it's worth it. So I think that's my takeaway. It's worth it. What about looking ahead to 2026? We have the whole year ahead of us, 364 more days. Looking ahead, what are you like most excited about slash like tactically speaking? Like what's kind of the big play this year?
I think this year, since we have put so much more in like strategically on the back end, we have a lot of stuff just like locked and loaded to launch into 2026, just like operationally, our marketing, our systems are so much better. So I really am, and again, I don't want to go over promising, but I really am excited for our team to reap the benefits of all the hard that we went through in 2025. And I think there will be a lot of that. And so I'm really, really excited for that. I will also be out on maternity leave for part of this year. So I am excited to see, because that has been a huge motivator for me in the past few months of like, this stuff has got to run whether I'm here or not. And I do a lot of stuff. And so that has given me the opportunity to be like, this is how this is going to work without me here this year. And so I'm just excited for the fruits of that to come to the team.
Yeah. I think I'm looking forward. A similar answer is like I just feel like we have restructured the entire like foundation, and it's like so like it literally is now ready to like just blast off, I feel like. And so I'm excited to see all the shit that we were in and like went through, and plenty of good things too, but like all of the hard choices and what we've endured this year for the good of the company and the longevity of the company, like we are set up to like reap all of that this year and forevermore. And so I'm excited to like see that and for our team to experience it and finally to be able to be like, okay, like I trusted them for a reason, like here we go. And so I'm really excited for that. People listening, so other founders or like leaders listening, what do you want them to kind of take away and maybe implement with what you've learned this year?
The biggest thing I have learned and continue to learn is just that leading from a place of humility and honesty is always more effective than I think I'm pretty good at not like pretending I know things if I don't, but I think especially this year I realized like I would kind of be like I'll get that back to you later. I'll get that back to you later. And now I'm just more like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't make you a promise on that. This uncomfortable thing is a consequence of a mistake I made. Like, I'm sorry. I'm human. You guys make mistakes too. And that's okay too. Like, if you make a mistake, I don't want you to be afraid to come to me because I make mistakes too. Like, it goes both ways. And even just like in talking with the coaching clients, a lot of what I coach people kind of out of is trying to show up to a meeting with all the answers. And I'm like, you really have to lead from a place of humility and curiosity and like you're making decisions at the end of the day, but also it's ideally it's like with your team. If I would say take anything away, it's just lead with curiosity and humility, and you can figure it out. If I did, you can do it too.
I think my thing that I want people to go into this year is one thing I learned about myself was like, I shared a little bit earlier, like, I'm not a systems person. My brain doesn't work that way, blah, blah, blah. But like, at the end of the day, you're running a business and like, you need to learn those skills. And so I would just kind of like challenge people. Where is it in like your skill set that you're like, well, I lack that skill and I can't do it that way because I've never learned, or, that part doesn't come naturally to me. So I'm going to do it this way. And like, so where is that disconnect and where is that not serving you in your business, right? And like I would challenge you to go learn and try and be okay that it's not going to be easy or perfect, that you'll probably struggle and have setbacks and things, but go learn new skills this year that will help you operate your business better. And like it doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself by any means. Like, Lord, better together, okay? Like hire a professional, like, if you have a team, like, think about, like, building a leadership team, like, all of those things, but, like, also, if you are the owner, the leader, the CEO, whatever of your company, like, it's on you. And so just a little subtle challenge out there for 2026 for our listeners of, like, don't write yourself off if it's something that doesn't come naturally to you, like, it's up to you, honestly, at the end of the day. So, well, on that note, I'm like, it's January 1st today when you're hearing this episode. Corrie and I actually have, our whole entire VIP program that we have a few seats open for new clients to come. If any of this resonated with you, we would honestly love for you to apply for that. You can get that link in the show notes of this episode, or you can always DM one of us on Instagram. But we do have some seats open now that we've started the new year. And so we would love to hear from you if you're like, holy cow, like I am struggling with so many of these things. I have a team or I want to build a team, or, how do I grow my business, or what the heck, I know nothing about the finances, the profitability, or like, what are y'all saying an ideal client and a marketing flywheel and all these things. Like, this is the type of stuff that we teach you guys so that way you can like have an operationally sound team and a culturally strong team. And that's kind of like our like specialty is like, how can we truly change the game? Yes, clinically, but also like the culture that we build, truly like a team first culture, and also like build these amazing systems and operations and things like that that make your business stronger from like the inside out. And so just throwing that out there if you need some help growing things this year or getting out of the weeds or knowing what to do, we have some spots open. So definitely apply. But Thank you, Corrie, so much for coming on. This is always so fun, and I'm sure I'm gonna have you on here a million more times, and maybe we'll do that Instagram live Q&A live on the podcast, coming at you live.
That'd be so fun. I love being here, Becky. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah. All right, y'all have a great rest of your day. Please share this episode if it resonated, if it was helpful, all the things, and we so appreciate it. Have a great day.